As Allied armies pushed across Europe, a new enemy emerged, one that couldn't be fought with bullets or bombs. This enemy was uncertainty. German commanders relied heavily on aerial reconnaissance and intercepted radio signals to track Allied movements. To win, the Allies needed more than just firepower. They needed deception on a scale never before imagined. And so, a secret unit was born. A unit unlike anything the world had ever seen. It was officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. But history would remember them by a much more fitting name, the Ghost Army. This unit wasn't filled with hardened career soldiers. Instead, its ranks were comprised of artists, actors, architects, sound engineers, and advertising designers. Their mission was not to fight, but to fool. They were tasked with creating illusions so powerful, so convincing, that they could deceive the entirety of German intelligence. Their weapons weren't rifles and grenades, but inflatable tanks, fake radio traffic, giant speakers, and masterful camouflage. They were soldiers, yes, but more than that, they were creators. They were about to paint their masterpiece on the canvas of war. Imagine being a German pilot flying a reconnaissance mission over France. You look down and see an entire armored division, hundreds of tanks and artillery pieces, preparing for an assault. The camp is bustling with activity, trucks moving, soldiers digging trenches. It looks real, it feels real, but it was all a lie. On fields across France, Belgium, and Germany, the Ghost Army was at work. They would inflate massive rubber tanks that from a few thousand feet up were indistinguishable from the real thing. They positioned cleverly designed wooden aircraft on dummy airfields, complete with painted shadows to enhance the illusion. They arranged props with theatrical precision to mimic entire divisions on the move. But the deception wasn't just visual. Sound engineers, some of whom came straight from Hollywood, played a critical role. They had a library of pre-recorded sounds, captured from real divisions. Through massive speakers mounted on trucks, they could blast the sounds of marching troops, the rumble of tank engines, the clatter of bridge construction, even the casual conversations of soldiers. Two German scouts listening in from miles away, it sounded exactly like tens of thousands of troops preparing for battle. In reality, the entire deception was often orchestrated by just 1,100 men, impersonating a force 30 times their size. This was sonic warfare, an auditory illusion that played on the enemy's fears and expectations. While the visual and sound artists built the physical illusion, another team was creating a phantom army on the airwaves. The radio operators of the Ghost Army were true magicians. Their job was to imitate the radio traffic of entire regiments and divisions. This was more than just sending fake messages. They had to perfectly replicate the unique communication style, the specific Morse code, fist, or rhythm of individual operators from real units they were impersonating. Every pause, every procedural phrase, every type of message format had to be perfect. If a real unit was known for being sloppy with their radio discipline, the Ghost Army operators would mimic that sloppiness. These meticulously crafted broadcasts created a rich, believable narrative for German intelligence analysts. They would listen in and confidently report that powerful Allied forces were massing in a certain area, ready to strike. It was a phantom army, conjured out of thin air, that could pin down real German divisions, sending them on a wild goose chase while the actual Allied attack happened miles away. It was strategy through storytelling. One of their most daring and successful missions was Operation Liaison, which took place in March 1945. The Allies were preparing for the final massive push into Germany by crossing the Rhine River. The 9th Army was tasked with the real crossing, a highly dangerous operation. To draw German attention away, the Ghost Army was deployed. For days, they staged a massive, elaborate deception. Inflatable tanks lined the roads, creating the impression of a huge armored force gathering miles south of the actual crossing point. Fake artillery units were positioned, their dummy cannons pointing menacingly toward German lines. The airwaves buzzed with phony radio traffic, detailing plans for an imminent attack. Sound trucks roared through the night, broadcasting the sounds of an army on the move. The German command took the bait completely. Believing a major assault was coming from the south, they repositioned several of their key divisions, including panzer units, to meet the non-existent threat. They diverted precious resources and manpower away from the real crossing points. When the US 9th Army finally launched its assault, they met far less resistance than anticipated. The deception had worked perfectly. The Ghost Army had saved countless lives and helped secure a critical objective, all without firing a single shot. It was a victory won entirely through imagination and trickery. What's truly remarkable is the talent that filled the ranks of this clandestine unit. Many members of the Ghost Army went on to become incredibly famous artists and creators in their post-war lives. Fashion designer Bill Blass, known for his elegant and classic American style, served in the camouflage division. Acclaimed photographer Art Kane, who would later shoot some of the most iconic images in music history, was a member. Ellsworth Kelly, a pioneer of minimalist painting and sculpture, also honed his craft in the unit. These men used their artistic sensibilities not to create for galleries or museums, but to deceive the enemy and protect their fellow soldiers. Their creativity directly contributed to the Allied victory, saving thousands of lives. But for decades, their work remained classified, hidden from the public. Their greatest masterpiece was never displayed in a gallery. It was performed on the battlefields of Europe. For nearly 50 years after the war ended, the story of the Ghost Army was a secret. Their operations were classified, and the men who served were sworn to secrecy. The world knew of the heroes of Normandy, the Battle of the Bulge, and Iwo Jima, but the artists of the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops remained phantoms. It's only in recent decades that their files have been declassified, and the world has begun to learn just how deeply their campaign of deception shaped the war. Theirs was a unique kind of courage. It wasn't found in the heat of direct combat, but in their willingness to go into dangerous areas, often very close to the front lines, armed with nothing but rubber, speakers, and their own ingenuity. They were masters of misdirection, wizards of war who proved that in the ultimate conflict, creativity can be every bit as powerful as brute force. This is the incredible true story of the Ghost Army, the artists, designers, and sound engineers who fooled Hitler as commanders and helped change the course of the war through the power of illusion. They were the symphony of deception, the painters of phantom armies, and the unsung heroes of World War II. Thank you for watching this episode of WW2 Chronicles. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more untold stories from history. We'll see you next time.